You want to go to Princeton University? I want to help you do it. My name is Craig Meister. You can go to my website, collegemeister.com, to learn more about me and my college application coaching services and how we can work together one-on-one. Today, I want to give you the inside story of how to get into Princeton. So let's start right off with tip number 1. Below this video, there is a link to my classic article, How to Get into the Ivy League Ethically. I want you to read that article from start to finish, from top to bottom. Really let it get absorbed into you, what the information is in that article. Because if you can do everything that article is suggesting that you do in grades 9, 10, 11, and as you head into grade 12, you are going to be laying an amazing foundation for yourself in terms of giving yourself the very best chance of getting in to Princeton University. I will just add as sort of an asterisk on top of that, if that you are choosing to submit your SAT scores to Princeton, I would seriously only do so if you are scoring in the very high 1400s or higher, basically 1500s. If you are below that point, I would be very leery of sharing my test scores in a test optional environment. Now, of course, we don't know what the future will bring. Princeton could theoretically go back to being test required in the future, but at least when this video is being filmed in 2023, I would say that since it's a test optional environment, you should be leery of sending your test scores to Princeton unless you are in the 1500s for sure. You can send them. If you're in the high 1400s, it's more of a case-by-case scenario, and that's why you may want to work with me one-on-one to get a sense of what your strengths and weaknesses are elsewhere in your application in order to determine whether or not you should be sending your SAT or the equivalent ACT scores to Princeton University. But that article over at admissions.blog, How to Get into the Ivy League Ethically, is going to set a beautiful table for you so that going into 12th grade year, you're going to have still a fighting chance of getting into Princeton. If you do not do what is demonstrated in that article that you should be doing throughout your high school career, you will have put yourself at a great disadvantage in terms of getting into Princeton before you even open up the application to Princeton University as a rising senior or as a senior in high school. Tip number 2, when you apply to Princeton really does matter. It's very hard to get in no matter when you apply. Princeton is one of the most selective schools in the world at the undergraduate level, but it's definitely the case still that Princeton has a higher acceptance rate for their restrictive early action or single choice early action, depending on what school you're looking at, that we call it different things, candidates and applicants, than they do for their regular decision applicants. So if you know that Princeton is your first choice school and you are willing to forego early action applications and early decision applications at other private institutions, then I would say you should seriously consider applying to Princeton restrictive or single choice early action, because that's going to give you the highest statistical chance of getting into Princeton. And the good news with that is that you're not binded to get it going, even if you do get in by Christmas time or winter break time or New Year's Day of your 12th grade year. You still have all the way until May to decide of whether or not you want to go to Princeton. But many people who do get into Princeton, early action, do in fact sign on the dotted line as fast as they can, because it is their first choice, and there are few schools ranked and considered as strong as Princeton University. My next tip, tip number 3, on the supplement to the Princeton application, the common application, we have a great number of opportunities to differentiate you in the eyes of the admissions committee. So I want to discuss them at length. But before I get to my tip number 3, I do just want to give a shout out to the fact that below this video, I'm including links to my bonus content that relates to my previous article and or videos on the common application essay. Common application essay is read carefully by the admissions committee over at Princeton. And so even though it is not the focus of this video, you sure as heck better believe you need to have a great common application essay. But because that is a whole nother topic that would take a lot of time out of this video, I'm not going to be discussing the common app essay in any greater depth today in this video. So you would want to watch my past videos on the subject so that you don't fall into some of the pitfalls that other applicants fall into when crafting their common application essay, and so that you can also strategically approach which prompt to pick and how that might most positively differentiate you and your candidacy for admission to Princeton University. But let's dive into my tip number 3, which actually is going to focus on one of the last things asked of you on the supplement to Princeton's Common Application, where in a very innocuous language it says, additional information optional. Please attach a document if you wish to provide details of circumstances or qualifications not reflected in the application. Many students, having completed the entire common portion of the Common Application and all of the essays in the Princeton supplement to the Common Application, as well as all the other questions that they've been completing throughout the entire application process, they're going to see that optional upload and they're not going to do a darn thing about it. They're going to move on. They're like, I am exhausted. I don't want to do anything else. I don't need to say anything else. I've already shared my activities. I've already shared all my circumstances elsewhere. I'm done. That should not be your mindset. Your mindset should be to fight to the finish and to use every available space to you to positively differentiate your candidacy for admission. And so what I want you to do, unless you have some incredibly important story that you've not already shared, which is rare, I would encourage all applicants to Princeton to use this optional upload as the opportunity to share an unabridged resume about, in this case, yourself, so that you can further elaborate on and give greater depth and breadth to the extracurricular activities that you have pursued throughout your high school career. So basically, I want you to produce an unabridged resume about yourself so that you don't feel confined by the very limiting activities page on the common portion of the Common Application. Most Princeton applicants are extremely impressive individuals. They have much more to share about one or more of the extracurricular activities than that would fit in the activities page of the Common Application. If this sounds like you, then you need to put together a full-fledged resume about yourself and do that on a Google or Word document before you even think about uploading it to the supplement for Princeton's application. How to put together such a beautiful and arguably extraordinary document? I would say you need to purchase my How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume short course, which is linked below this video and is available over at Gumroad. That is where I sell that course. It is so cheap. You can rent it, you can buy it, and it takes less than an hour to view it, watch it, absorb it. That course is going to teach you everything you need to know in order to put together a beautiful and, again, I would argue, extraordinary extracurricular resume that will allow you to set yourself apart from your competition and positively differentiate the activities that you have been pursuing throughout your high school career in a way that will be memorable to Princeton admissions officers and therefore be, again, a net positive to your overall application that will give them the context that they need to fully consider your candidacy for admission and give you the very best shot of getting in. So again, my How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume short course link is below this video. Please consider purchasing it because it's going to help you with that application to Princeton University. And then, and even though it's optional, you do it. Just because it's optional doesn't mean you don't have to do it. In my eyes, you got to do it because you want to fight to get in to Princeton University. I always say, go big or go home. And then my final tip has to do with all the lovely little writing supplemental essays you have to write for Princeton. They're not a small number, in fact. It can be quite exhausting. Even though they're not the longest responses in terms of word count, you still have a number of opportunities to really make the most of the supplement to Princeton or actually stick your foot in your mouth at Princeton. And so I want to give you some tips as it relates to making the most of the supplemental writing on Princeton's supplement to the Common Application. So let's focus first on the question related to academics on the academics section of the Princeton supplement to the Common Application. It asks, which degree would you most likely pursue at Princeton? Your choice is not binding in any way, but depending on how you respond to that innocuous question about whether you want to earn an AB, a B.S.E, or are undecided, you will get a slightly different new prompt that pops up where you have 250 words with which to respond to one of these questions. If you put A, B, or undecided, you get this question. As a research institution that also prides itself on its liberal arts curriculum, Princeton allows students to explore areas across the humanities and the arts, the natural sciences and the social sciences. What academic areas most pique your curiosity? And how do the programs offered at Princeton suit your particular interest. Again, you have 250 words with which to respond to that prompt if you are applying as an AB candidate or an undecided candidate. This is a classic why this college essay, and it's focused primarily on the academic side of Princeton. So you want to take the time necessary to do your due diligence and research the majors you're most interested in and why you would be very interested in studying that major or majors at Princeton in particular. If your response could be written to any school that offers a history major, any school that offers a philosophy major, any school that offers a Spanish major, then you're not making it as specific as you need to for this response to really work in your favor at Princeton University. Remember, the prompt specifically asks you what academic areas most pique your curiosity and how do the programs offered at Princeton suit your particular interests. So you need to be able to convey in your response knowledge of your very specific goals academically and maybe even after you graduate from Princeton, but also knowledge of the intricacies of Princeton's way in which they deliver that particular program or major. What makes it different from the major that's offered also at Harvard or at Yale? You don't mention those colleges in your response, but you need to be able to discern for yourself before you can write authoritatively what is a history major at Yale and how does it differ from the history major at Princeton versus Harvard versus Brown versus Penn versus any other school you might be applying to. If you don't know the answer to that question, then you really haven't done the research necessary to be able to respond to this essay prompt as sharply and as crisply as you really must in order to best differentiate yourself for admission at Princeton. Okay, so this essay should be structured in such a way where you have a one-sentence intro/thesis where you introduce what it is that you're most curious about studying. Then the body, that's your thesis statement, then the body is going to elaborate on why this piques your interest and how you envision pursuing this interest in specific detail at Princeton. And then your conclusion says something new, goes a step beyond the thesis. It's not just restate the intro/thesis. Again, it says something new and thoughtful and respectful to Princeton, and is sort of like the cherry on top of your ice cream sundae that is this 250-word response. It's extremely important that you get in the weeds. And what I mean by that is you're free to mention a professor or two their names, a course that they teach, a particular program that would augment your study in the classroom that you could then carry on your study into the afternoon or evening hours by being a part of this research opportunity or this program or this institute, or maybe take advantage of this particular summer opportunity that only Princeton offers current undergraduates, or summer or a semester abroad opportunity that is unique to Princeton, or a combination thereof. Obviously, you don't have that much space, so you can't name all of these things, but you do need to get hyper-specific with giving proof in the body to support the thesis that you are laying out in the intro/thesis, okay? So that's how I would approach this one. You really need to make a compelling closing argument, even though this is your first essay on the Princeton supplement. In many ways, this is your final closing argument as to your chance to convey fit between you and Princeton and you. By the end of the time that they read your overall application, the application readers at Princeton want to feel like you are a perfect fit for Princeton and Princeton is a perfect fit for you. The response to this particular prompt is going to really help you get a ways toward achieving that goal. Now, in the event you did say you wanted to apply for a B.S.E and not an A.B, the prompt changes quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but a bit. Please describe why you are interested in studying engineering at Princeton. Include any of your experiences in or exposure to engineering and how you think the programs offered at the university suit your particular interests. So the phone is ringing in the background. Maybe this is Princeton calling me saying I shouldn't be giving away these tips, but in any case, I'm going to keep going and ignore the phone. So I apologize for the phone ringing. So this is how we're going to approach this particular response. You can give a little bit more details about your past in this response than you did if you were applying for an A.B or an undecided program. So it's extremely important that you maybe share one or two more sentences to provide backdated or past event proof that would indicate that you in fact are a good fit for studying engineering, and that this just hasn't popped into your head recently because your dad is putting you up to it, or you think engineers make more money and so all of a sudden you're interested in engineering, but you have no real proof in the pudding. So you do want to at least allude or refer back to your past a little bit more in this response than you need to refer back to your past in your previous response if you were applying as an AB or an undecided student. Otherwise, it's basically the same goal. You need to show how you think the programs offered at Princeton would suit your particular interest, vis-a-vis engineering in particular. That requires research into the engineering program, the B.S.E program in particular. B.S.E program in particular at Princeton. How does it compare to the one at Penn? How does it compare to the one at Columbia or Brown? So you really want to get a sense of that before you start to write and draft out your response to this so that you can zero in on the things that make the Princeton program really sing to you and resonate with you in such a way as that you will be able to convey that you are being pulled to Princeton because of these particular aspects that are most attractive to you, and that also align with the proof that you provide earlier in your response as indicating that you would be a good fit for engineering writ large and generally. So you need to sort of make a marriage and connect the dots for the application readers that your past, your present, and your future very much align and that they should all run you through Princeton, New Jersey. All right? The remainder of the writing would be located in the writing section of the supplement to the Princeton Common Application, the Princeton supplement on the Common Application. I'm stumbling over my words now. I'm still wondering who was calling, but in any case, I'll get to that later. Here is prompt number 1 on the writing supplement. Your voice. Princeton values community and encourages students, faculty, staff, and leadership to engage in respectful conversations that can expand their perspectives and challenge their ideas and beliefs. As a prospective member of this community, reflect on how your lived experiences will impact the conversations you will have in the classroom, the dining hall, or other campus spaces. What lessons have you learned in life thus far? What will your classmates learn from you? In short, how has your lived experience, otherwise known as your life, shaped you? I added the otherwise known as your life. So you have 500 words to respond to this essay prompt. That's a lot of words. This is a grand essay. So you can have a 1-paragraph introduction, a 1-paragraph conclusion, and maybe a 3 or 4 paragraph body. You have the space. So you really need to, again, think long and hard about what you want to share about yourself. You can't share everything, even though you have 500 words. That's a lot of words compared to other essay prompts. But you can focus on 1 or 2 at most aspects of your background, your character, your perspectives, your beliefs that will particularly be likely to make an impact in the conversations that you have on Princeton's campus, and thus will shape and inform how you behave as a Princeton undergraduate. So don't bite off more than you can chew. Again, don't try to mention 3, 4, 5 things about yourself, because then you'll go narrow and broad and shallow in your response. Instead, you want to go deep and narrow in your response and focus again on 1 or 2 things that you will bring to the table, as it were, whether it be the dining room table or the classroom desk, or just around a table in your dorm room with your classmates and your dorm mates at Princeton, that will again inform the lessons that you have learned in life thus far and what your classmates will ultimately glean from your presence on the campus. So many students will refer back to something core to their identity, whether it be their nationality or their state of residence, being a Southern girl or a Western boy, or maybe their race or their religion, or a particular political philosophy that they hold, or maybe their gender or sexual identity will be at the core of what they want to discuss. But it could also be much more non-apparent in terms, obviously if you look at someone, you know their race in most cases, or it may not be as core to your identity as your religion, but it could still be important nonetheless. Maybe you're the type of person who can't stop asking why, and you're very curious, and you always propose alternate theories on things. And so you would want to talk about the fact that you're inquisitive and that you challenge assumptions. That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your religion, your race, your gender or sexual identity, your nationality. It's just your personality or your disposition. And so what my point is that you do not have to lean on sort of characteristics about yourself that are immutable or that have been with you from birth. You can, and you probably most likely should, connect actual real active behaviors that you have to the core of your response. So even if you were to say that, being Hispanic has definitely impacted you, you don't want to just say, I'm Hispanic and I'm going to be a Hispanic face, or I'm going to be a Hispanic last name. You're going to want to go deeper than the superficial and talk about an experience that you had as a Hispanic individual that was so impactful, and you'll show and tell about that in the body of this essay, that the lessons learned from that particular experience are what you're going to be taking to Princeton and sharing with Princeton students, professors, etc., because your value system, your trajectory in life was altered as a result of that experience that was meaningful to you because of the identity you brought to the experience and how it affected you. So it's not so simple as simply saying, I'm Hispanic, I'm going to be a Hispanic person on campus. It's going to be much deeper than that in our current environment. You need to explain how your Hispanic heritage or being Hispanic in that particular episode or incident in your life played a big role in what you took out of that episode and the lesson learned from that episode, and the type of way in which you will impart the lesson you learned to the community that you're going to be a part of, hopefully for the next 4 years, which is at Princeton. All right. How I structure it, very similar to how I structure most of my responsive essays in personal persuasive research essays. This is not more of a research essay. This is more so a personal persuasive essay on the Comment app and its supplements, which would be a 1-paragraph intro with a thesis that's going to introduce, the content around which this essay will revolve. The body that actually shows the action of the story that was impactful, or the episode where you learned a lesson from it by the end. By the end of that body, you're very explicit on the lessons you've learned. And in the conclusion, if not earlier, you're going to be showing how the lessons learned from that episode you want to really focus on specifically in the story are going to inform your behaviors. Not just what's going on in your mind, but your behaviors, what you say, what you add to the Princeton community as an undergraduate. Of course, the conclusion should also go a step beyond the thesis and not just restate what you've already stated in your intro/thesis, but you need to do all those things in the course of your 500-word response to this very interesting lived experience new essay on the supplement for Princeton in 2023-2024. The next prompt is, Princeton has a long-standing commitment to understanding our responsibility to society through service and civic engagement. How does your own story intersect with these ideals? So here's an opportunity to show yourself actually having a light bulb moment or getting a positive experience giving back to community or your school community, some community you're part of in your life to date, but also then have the opportunity to connect the dots with Princeton's values, and particularly you still also have an opportunity, even though you have only 250 words, to maybe paint a picture of how this value system of yours will play out as an undergraduate at Princeton. So you could theoretically name drop by the end of this response, how you see yourself continuing to behave in a civically minded way at Princeton, in a way like you described earlier in the essay that you've done in the past. So again, you need to sort of focus on one way in which you've given back through service or civic engagement, explain why you were motivated to do so, what you got out of it, and how you would envision continuing to give back in that way into the future at Princeton, in the Princeton and its environs, if you will, as an undergraduate over the next 4 years and maybe even into the future. Again, I know you only have 250 words, but if you're an efficient and effective writer, you can get all that into one 250-word essay, a one-sentence intro with a thesis, a several-sentence, if not a full-fledged paragraph body to support and prove the thesis, and then a conclusion that takes the reader a step beyond the thesis. And then finally, there are 3 opportunities to give 50 words about yourself, or fewer, but I always say try to at least hit 45 words in any of these 50-word responses. And here are the 3 prompts. Please respond to each of the 50 prompts, again in 50 words. Prompt number 1, what is a new skill you would like to learn in college? There's really no wrong answer to this. I would say the best way to respond is maybe, again, name dropping a specific way in which you can learn that skill at Princeton by getting specific with a real opportunity. But think about what your value system is and share the skill that you would like to learn while as an undergraduate at Princeton, not just in college, but an undergraduate at Princeton. And try your very best to not have any syntax, grammar, or spelling errors. That's the main way in which you could screw this one up, because there's no right or wrong answer to any of these prompts. But particularly with such a short number of words to respond to, 50 words, the main focus is going to be on how you say it and not what you say, and what type of evidence you marshal to support your response, even though you only have 50 words. So try to maybe marshal one specific anecdote about Princeton in this response, if at all possible, so that they know you only have eyes for Princeton and they should only have eyes for you. What brings you joy? Again, 50 words to respond to that. There's no right or wrong answer, but I would probably get personal with something really very specific from your background that they would not otherwise know about you by reviewing the rest of your application. So don't just restate something that would probably be assumed by you, by the admissions committee about you. So if you're already an engineering candidate, you have 5 activities, 7 activities on your extracurricular activities list and your resume related to engineering. For you to say engineering brings me joy here would be duplicative and ridiculous. You should say something new that brings you joy, because we already know that you're really hot for engineering and that you're probably going to be an engineer. So instead, focus on something new, a different facet of your character, your personality, your value system, so that they can get a deeper glimpse into who the person is they're accepting and not just who the student is they're accepting over at Princeton. Again, don't have any spelling, grammar, or syntax errors, because that would be the main way in which you screw this up, because you don't even have a thesis here. You just have a statement. It's 50 words. Good luck. And then the final one is, what song represents the soundtrack of your life at this moment? You have enough words to give the artist that performed or wrote the song, so do that just in case the song has a name that's relatively common and they don't know exactly the song based off the name of the song itself. But you have also room with which to explain why this particular song really resonates with you right now. I did actually an article a couple years ago about the best college application completion playlist. And I think I had 20 songs on that. I'll link that in an article below this video, and you can read it. But there are some songs to get your mind in the frame of reference necessary to complete your applications in the best way possible. And there were some funny songs that I included in that. But really, the world is your oyster. Maybe you pick a song in your native language if you're an international student. Maybe you pick a song that has deep meaning to you because it's a song that you always sang with your father during your summer before 9th grade, and your father now is living in a different state or something. So you can share more about your value system, your personal history, depending on how you frame your response. And so if it's meaningful to you and it's something that's really very close to your heart at this point in your life, share it with them. And there's really no way you can mess this up again other than if you don't provide the syntax, grammar, or spelling correctly, and you don't necessarily clarify the exact real song if you just give a very common name to a song that has many different authors or many different inspirations. So definitely give the artist name as well so that they can really clarify what song you are referring to here. Maybe they will run that song on YouTube as they read the rest of your application, or as they bring your full application to the admissions committee to make a case for why you should be accepted if they like the song enough. One more bit of information about Princeton: they do still offer you the opportunity to take part in an optional interview in most cases. If you have the opportunity to interview, take it. It's another opportunity to differentiate yourself in your application to Princeton University. It's almost beside the point of whether or not it's purely informational or evaluative. It's usually conducted by a member of the Alumni Admissions Committee, and they are not paid. They are just volunteers. So these are alumni volunteers who went to Princeton, who are interested in getting to know who is currently applying to Princeton. And your job is to make the most of that interview opportunity so you can learn more about the school and convey to this interviewer, whoever he or she may be in your local community or whoever's assigned to you virtually, wherever you may be doing this interview, why you're interested in Princeton. And to prepare for that, I've included some links below this video that relate specifically to tips that will help you make the most of and really ace your interview with Princeton or any other school for that matter. If you, again, want one-on-one interview prep or mock interview support, I also provide that to my one-on-one college admissions coaching clients, and you can become one over at collegemeister.com. So we got through it. It's been about a half an hour. Thank you for being patient with me. I think you've learned a lot if you've stayed on to this point. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Share this information and this channel information with your family and friends or whoever else could benefit from not only this video, but my back catalog of videos that cover a great number of content areas related to the college admissions process. And I have videos about other colleges as well that you may find useful as you navigate your college application process. Again, my name's Craig Meister. Learn more about me at collegemeister.com. But until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I wish you the very best of luck at becoming a Princeton Tiger. Bye-bye.